There are a lot of people who understand the need for the Great Commission, but you have really invested, so much of your time, energy, resources to be involved in the missions field. Why is it so important to you to do that?
Well, that's a good question. When I was a young Christian, I was born again into a church planting movement. And so when I would read the book of Acts, I naturally expected myself to be part of church planting.
Yes.
And so my wife and I, after some years of marriage, we wanted to be part of church planting. And so we spoke to our elders, and James Loke suggested Adelaide. So we moved from Melbourne to Adelaide. So that's part of the heart for church planting. And missions really is really, preaching the gospel and going where we can. And so we went from Melbourne to Adelaide, and we've looked at opportunities to go overseas. So it's really part of the same vision.
Yeah.
So it's not as if we have a local vision and an international vision. It's really a vision for the gospel. And so starting the church here is part of the vision for the gospel, and going overseas locally is really sort of seamlessly with the same vision to preach the gospel.
I like the way you say seamlessly, The challenge is, of course, in reality, there are a lot of pastors who are just so absorbed with the local church scene, but you have integrated it, and I think that's wonderful that you're treating it that way.
It can be a little bit of a trap where we become insular and focused only on what seems to be what I own. I own my local church, but we don't own the church. It's God's church. It's part of the movement.
Yes.
And so we want to help build the whole movement. We don't want to just help build a local church. We want to be part of building the movement, part of building God's kingdom. And so we don't want to solely invest just in our local church. So we spent 10, 12 years helping the local church in Perth.
Yes.
And it's been significant investment as well, because we see ourselves serving God primarily, and then the expression of serving God is in our local church mainly, but then in other churches as well.
How would you say for a local church to be involved, going beyond its sort of local focus, especially going to another nation? How would, in your view, how would that help the life of a church, the heart of a church, when it's involved in such a way?
That's a good question. In some ways, it's a sacrifice for the local church when one of its leaders or more go interstate or overseas on a mission trip for some weeks or some longer period of time. It is a sacrifice, but it's a bit like doing evangelism. As you sow, you will reap. So we do a lot of evangelism, and we know that God will build the church as we give. So we do a lot of missions, and what that does is it builds the heart for the gospel. And so even though it is a sacrifice in the local church, we're building a heart to reach out, a heart of love. So we're cultivating a heart of love, cultivating a heart to give, cultivating a heart to serve, and to take risks. It is a little bit risky at times, some more risky than others.